you all please stand and join me in my pledge of allegiance and the invocation. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gracious God, as we come to you this day to begin another session of the Carl Junction Board of Aldermen, help us to be mindful of those who paid the ultimate price for the preservation of our democracy and our freedom, and through our actions do honor to their memory. Amen.
Thank you, Steve. Next is approval of the agenda. Are there any comments or corrections to the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by David Powell, to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative with 2 absent. The agenda is approved. Next is the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting and approval of disbursements. Are there any comments or changes to the consent agenda?
Move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Don Allen, second by Roger Spencer, to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative with 2 absent. The consent agenda is approved. Next is public forum. Anyone wishing to speak in public forum?
Got one.
I'm going to let Roger read this.
You ain't let me read it. Reading it?
Yeah.
No.
I read it.
Holly.
Holly.
Thank you.
All persons wishing to speak to the mayor and board of aldermen during the public comment portion of the meeting should come forward one at a time, stand at the podium, state your name and address, the subject matter you wish to comment on. All comments should be directed to the mayor in a civil manner. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless the mayor or board of aldermen grants additional time. It is the mayor's responsibility to make certain these rules are followed and to maintain order and decorum. If you have questions, the mayor and board of aldermen may, of course, provide an immediate response. However, the mayor and board of aldermen may also provide no response, a response at a later time as they deem appropriate.
Thank you, Holly.
May I approach up there?
Sure.
I made this for all of us.
See, I told you her voice is better than mine.
It sure was. Dang it.
You probably all already know this, but there's just one thing I want to touch base on this. And I'll start the pictures down here. There's just 2 pictures. Okay, I've spoken to the building inspector 3 times, and I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah, can you give your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Stacy
okay.
Smith, 712 Remington Circle. I've spoken to the city building inspector 3 times, and I'm not getting, it might not be the answer I want, maybe that's what I'm not getting, but on the swimming pools, above ground swimming pools, on the second page, at the top is the city of Pearl Junction's codes that says that pools should be enclosed international residential code sections. And then below that is the code sections, the IRC code sections. And the first thing is definition. And I'm interpreting barrier to mean exactly what it says: a fence, wall, building wall, or combination thereof, completely surrounding the swimming pool that obstructs access to swimming pool, spa, or hot tub. This pool has been open since the beginning of summer. It's in my neighborhood. It's 805 Summerlin. I don't know who lives there, but I hear kids playing in it. And I've done some landscaping for other residents down that area, and I always hear people in it, and I'm thinking, why isn't there a fence around this pool? So I called the building inspector, and they quoted me a different code and section saying that the bottom of that, if you look at the picture, the bottom of those stairs has a locked gate on it. The deck only encompasses a quarter of the pool, and she said that's the barrier. I don't see it as a barrier. I called my insurance agent, who's been our insurance agent since John and I got married 42 years ago, and he's like, Stacy, I've never seen a city approve a code that allows above ground pools to be not covered with wool or with a fence, enclosed in a fence. So I'm bringing it to you to tell me what I'm not seeing. I mean, I'm an educated person, I've got 2 college degrees, and I'm not getting an answer that I think in my head makes common sense from the building inspector. That's my first point. I'm gonna go really fast to my second one. At the coffee and donuts we had a couple of Saturdays ago, someone mentioned bringing up, or they brought up pit bull ban and lifting the pit bull ban. I looked at the codes and the ordinances, and we have 2. One was set in July 18th, 1995, defining dangerous dogs, bans pit bulls, Rottweilers, and mixed breeds. And then the second one is an ordinance on August 19th, 2008, vicious dogs and other animals. And that's only after there's been vicious activity with that dog. Okay, as of now, there are 90 cities in Missouri. There are 10 states that also have roughly 90 cities in each state. They have laws on their books banning pit bulls, Rottweilers, or mixed breed bans. The dangers of pit bulls and Rottweilers is well documented. In these 2 specific breeds, it account for 75% of all reported canine-inflicted human deaths in the past 2 decades. On the American Veterinary Medical Association website, Arkansas, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, Mississippi, New Mexico, Ohio, Washington, Wisconsin all have had breed-specific court cases brought before both their state Supreme Courts and their appellate courts. And all of those court cases have been upheld. When I say breed-specific, I mean pit bull, Rottweiler, and pit bull mixed breeds. Waiting until a pit bull kills an innocent child or an adult is not only irresponsible, but in my opinion, morally reprehensible. In June, I'm going to give you an example. In June 2018, Chrysler agreed to recall 2.7 million Jeeps because over a period of 14 years, there had been at least 37 Jeep accidents that resulted in the deaths of 51 humans. 51 in 14 years. Compare those deaths to those killed by pit bulls. In a 7-year period during the same time, half of the years the Chrysler's recall, there were pit bulls had killed 151 Americans. 3 times as many were killed by pit bulls than there were by the Jeeps. Now suppose the Jeep recall was specific to Jasper County, but the councils in some of the towns prohibited Chrysler from recalling Jeeps owned by Jasper County residents. I think most of us would be crying negligence of city councils if they were to do that. It is time to stop once and for all pretending all dogs are created equal, and instead we need to stay the course, stay vigilant, and keep our city ban, keep recognizing that some breeds of dogs are in fact enormously more dangerous than others. Someone mentioned at the Coffee and Donuts, they brought up, and I think it was a joke, I hope, about Chihuahuas being aggressive ankle biters. Comparing a 3-pound dog to a large, aggressive, muscle massive pit bull not only diminishes the seriousness of the conversation we were trying to have, but it also insults mine and other like-minded citizens' intelligence. Lastly, that same person suggested allowing pit bulls back into the city limits, provided the dog is spayed or neutered. It's true, data shows spaying and neutering an inherently aggressive breed of dog will lessen its aggression. But that same data also indicates that pit bulls that have been surgically castrated are still responsible for nearly 68% of all canine inflicted injuries. Thank you.
I agree with it. I don't like the pit bulls and stuff like that, but I disagree with your statistics, because how many pit bulls and those vicious dogs are in the United States versus how many Jeeps are there?
I can give you, all my work was cited on.
Okay. What's that? How many Jeeps were there in the U.S. during that time? And how many dogs?
2.7 were recalled,
Well, okay.
and only 51 people were killed.
How many pit bulls?
Well, I shouldn't say only.
How many pit bulls are in the U.S. then?
Oh, I have no idea. The data shows there, I don't know.
don't like the dogs either. But I just wanted to say I don't like the data. I think you should
I
have,
don't have anything against any dog, I'm just saying it's, the data proves that pit bulls are aggressive and Rottweilers too. I mean, right there's the data, 71% of all canine inflicted deaths, human deaths, were the result of pit bull attacks.
Mr.
thank
Mayor,
you. Yes,
Mr. Talley, didn't we have something come up about this one other time at a meeting?
Several years ago.
Yeah.
There
You
was
passed
a,
that
there was
ordinance.
a substantial debate here in this room about breed-specific.
Yeah.
Didn't we come up with an ordinance against them?
I don't,
Yeah, we have.
I don't know that we did.
we already have one.
We have one. That's what, it was brought up in the meeting that one of the residents in the coffee and donuts, that one of the residents had an issue with breed specific. I am the one that said I have an issue with breed specific. I am not the one that said the ankle biter comment, even though it's being attributed to me.
That was
No,
it.
it's not, I didn't say it was you.
Yeah, but yeah, I do. Like I said, I don't like breed specific bans, but I stated why. But nobody has came in and tried to repeal it since then. So I think that's for information purposes.
Several years ago, we had a representative from the Humane Society
Yes,
come in
that's what I was talking about.
and wanted us to repeal that, and the council in whole at that time
Yes,
rejected taking it off of our books, and
Yeah.
it's still on our books.
The thing you have to worry about is the state. Because the state
The
has,
state has several years in a row, they have tried to do away with it with legislation on the state side.
Yeah.
And those groups are, outside the state of Missouri that are writing those legislations. And then they find a legislator to carry it for them.
But I did agree with if they are spayed or neutered, that to lift in service. If we did change the ordinance to put certain caveats with it. So, yes, I did agree with that. But that was the only discussion. Like I said, as far as I know, nobody else has came in and asked us to.
Did I ask about the pool? You guys, is there an easy answer to that?
I think we'll discuss it.
yeah, we have to look into it, yeah.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be discussing it.
I guess we're gonna get somebody's opinion on that, on what the law is versus what it looks like. I can't make that decision. I'm not qualified to.
No, I'll have to get into the IRC and look at it.
Anything else at public forum like to talk? Last call for public forum. Very well, we'll move on to ordinances. We have an ordinance approving a settlement agreement for sewer claim.
We would put this ordinance on first reading by title only.
Motion by Donna Allen, second by Roger Spencer to put this ordinance on first reading by title only. Will clerk please read the title?
An ordinance approving a settlement agreement with Kimberly and Daniel Brown to resolve claims against the city of Carl Junction, Missouri related to the sanitary sewer system by payment of the sum of $4,000 and the completion of sanitary sewer repairs at a cost of $87,500 in exchange for the lease of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Discussion, Steve.
This was more than a year ago, I believe, when this claim came in. There was two houses back to back on it. The Gals was one of them. We turned it over to Myrma. Myrma's attorney and the engineers worked on getting a settlement together. And this is the product of it. Part of that is that they'll go in and they'll separate their main lateral line out of the basement because it's 35 feet and about 6 inches of fall in it. And so when the line, which is no fault of the city because we didn't build the house, of course, but whoever built that house years and years ago, probably even before we had an inspector, it was allowed to go in that way. But we bear that responsibility now that it's our sewer system. So this is the result of that. This will finish out one of the two claims, and we can move on now.
And
Yes.
this is an unusual settlement in that it requires work to be done and a cost for that work. That's not typical, but these are our Murma lawyers who arranged it, and they seem to have it lined up okay. So it is unusual in that sense. I don't see these very often, but there's no reason to not trust in our Murma lawyers to resolve.
Any further discussion?
Move we put this ordinance on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Don Allen, second by Holly Devine, to put this ordinance on second reading by title only. Would the clerk please read the title?
An ordinance approving a settlement agreement with Kimberly and Daniel Gow to resolve claims against the city of Carl Junction, Missouri related to the sanitary sewer system by payment of the sum of $4,000 and the completion of sanitary sewer repairs at a cost of $47,500 in exchange for a release of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Any further discussion?
Move we put this ordinance on final passage.
I need to pause just
Definitely.
if we can, one quick, so we
Sure.
can update the computer. Okay,
Move we put this ordinance on final passage.
Second.
Motion by Don Allen, second by Roger Spencer, to put this ordinance on final passage as the handbook to electronic voting. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative with 2 absent, please vote electronically. Six in the affirmative with 2 absent, the ordinance passes for the settlement. That's ordinance.
2329.
Next is discussion about forming a business committee. Holly?
turn that one over to Holly.
Yeah. I think everybody got my proposal, and I've talked to a few people about this. So I think this would be a good idea just to try to get some stuff going with our businesses in town and review our process just to see if there's any hiccups that are dissuading businesses from opening in town. So I'd really like to get everybody's input on this and, you know, what size committee do you think we should have? Who do you think should join it? Any opinions? I welcome.
Anyone like to comment? I know Bill's had a lot of experience in this. I think it's a
Well,
good idea.
my question on it is it our position to do it? I think absolutely we need economic development, without question. But is it us to do that as a council? Isn't it normally done through the chamber and or a separate economic development group?
It's actually done both ways in the state of Missouri. You get a lot of economic and community development directors that are city employees. You also have a lot of chambers that take on that responsibility from cities. In the past, we've done it both ways. I was first hired by the city to be an economic developer back in 2002 as a city employee. And then once I moved into this position, then we signed an agreement with the chamber to act as economic development. There was problems with that contract in the amount of work product that we were getting out of them. And they sent somebody and got trained, and we've tried it both ways, is what I'm saying. So,
Well, my short experience in it was, it had been, ours was, not patting himself on the back, but a good relationship between economic development and the city. Because I think, and you agree to this, 95%, I don't know what it'd be right, but of the inquiries will come into the city. They're not by the economic development people going out beating tires and, trying to rum up some business or asking Mark Powers if maybe his old company might want to build a warehouse somewhere. It usually comes to the city and they ask, You know, what can you do for me, or you have available space, or what is the spiffs that I can get? And it's good we working relationship between that. So that's just my opinion.
I think to make it, I love the idea of having the committee, and my idea of that committee is one of the people that needs to be involved is from the chamber. I mean, the chamber needs to be
I
involved in
agree.
it also.
I agree 100%.
I like the idea of having a committee, and I understand a lot of times people will come to the city and ask. I think we need a committee so we can research, maybe even if it's talking with people like Baker Tilly or somebody, to see maybe what options we would have in different parts of town, like educate ourselves on what there is. But like we've talked about, to even identify all the areas to have them around, to talk with some of the business owners and people in the business community, because I had somebody today that told me their mission is to help the economy, offer access, offer services, employ people, but they wanted to even sit down and talk about some things that they found that, like some concerns, some ways to make some things easier, some ideas. So I think if we can involve the business community, even if we did it like people from different wards, however you want to do it, but do a combination of those. Because I don't know how many people come to the city asking for, I know a couple have in the last year, maybe. Or two.
Well, it's actually more than that. Most of the contacts I've had, and Kavanaugh does a great job of referring people to me. So, I mean, once a month, probably I have somebody that they want to know whether there's anything from, do you think this would go over good here, to, do you have an available space to it here, or what can you do for me to bring my business here? Any of those, once a month we probably get some type of inquiry like that.
And I think Holly and I have talked, I think if we can have a committee that we can actually have it prepared to tell people what we can do for them, what are the options, or.
Well, that's some things though that need between Steve and whatever this committee is.
Yeah.
And I look at this just in general from my experience, and I come into Carl Junction. Do you have an industrial park? I want to build a warehouse here. May employ 100 people in a good sized warehouse. What can you do for me? In that particular case, I think between you and whatever this committee is, we can work together. But right now, I don't see that. Our industrial park is sitting right downtown. Honestly, if we had somebody who wanted to come in here and build a couple 100,000 square foot warehouse, employ 100 people, we'd be all over it. But I don't know where we'd put them. We don't offer anything. Even like Holly said, even a sign. A little problem with my health. But anyway, I saw this sign out by the Galena hospitals out there. Big sign out there. This property is available for industrial development. And I thought, I took a picture of it. I just thought, something like that would help, because we have access to 171. No, we don't really 96, but and we got good rail access out here. So it's just a working together between the city and economic development. I'm not saying, I don't know if we could handle it ourselves, to tell you the truth, unless you have somebody permanently assigned to it.
Well, we did have a so-called industrial park here, and they built a building over here, Dawson's Cabinet did, for storing their furniture. Of course, the tornado took care of it.
Yeah.
In 2003. But the only thing that was the only building that went in, and they were the only ones. And the reason why they pulled out, I have no idea, because the building set almost where the police department's at now.
It did when the tornado took it out. Dawson made the decision to do away with the piece of property, and see, that would have been Jim Wisdom and Joe Barfield was the administration at the time. Got that property from Dawson. And I remember right, They might have just gave it back to us, if I remember right, and that's where we go with PD.
And like I told you earlier, I'd rather get an industrial park. And if it would have went in where we were talking about, Miss Holly wouldn't have a house. Because that's where it was gonna go if we could get it, because we had access from the railroad and off of 96 highway coming in there. And I got voted down because, well, he won't sell. Well, he did sell. And look who he sold it to, Redwood.
Well, it just is my opinion again, but we've kind of got the cart before the horse.
Yes.
You know, if we have somebody that want to come in here and build, we got a lot of scrambling to do. Instead of something like, you betcha, sir or ma'am, you know, we've got a 100-acre site out here. We got utilities out there, and whatever your needs are, we'll be here to help you. And that's between you and us. We are the same team. It's just somebody's got to be the PR work, and somebody's got to be looking for some abatements out of the state, or looking for something we can get some help.
It makes it a lot easier when either the city or a industrial development authority owns the property.
Absolutely.
Because when it's privately owned, the property's privately owned, you're tossing a whole nother set of people into that mixture. You know, how much is this guy willing to take for his property? And that's the problem we have right now, is that everything is privately owned that would be available at all. And so, and they're wanting market value out of it.
Exorbitant prices.
Yeah, so.
Well, I just think, you know, and it's, we can't badmouth anything that's happened in the past, in the last 75 years, but we started out wrong, and we've enclosed ourselves where we really don't have any. And we can get economic development for a Casey's or a hot dog stand, or, you know, we can get that. That's not going to bring the dollars we really need over the long run. Our children, their children, they're going to have something to look forward to. You know, and this one we got, Bourbon County, we got a 10-year tax abatement on it. But the thing is people looked at, oh my God, we got to be getting the money for them right now. That was 30 years ago. And they, for the last 20 years, have been reaping the benefits. Nobody thinks about that anymore. You know, it's over the long run where it's going to come in. But I think it's a great idea, Holly. I think we really need to do it.
Me too. What do we do now? What do we have to do? Mr. Talley, to form a committee, just,
Excuse me?
what do we have to do to get a committee?
You
Just
have to create it.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, all of our committees are mayor's purview.
Oh, great.
You know, one other partner that needs to be in that besides the city is the school district. You know, because those tax abatements affect the school a lot also. You know, so we want to make sure that they're on board with it.
What about,
We need something there, and so in the future they're fed.
Yep.
You know, that we built something for them.
what about fire protection district? If we do
Now,
abatements, does it affect them?
it can, depending on the type of business. That's going to be more business related than it is in that up front.
All of them are, if you're gonna have a property tax abatement, they're all gonna have to be involved in that. Okay,
In the county.
all right, well, I will,
We'll
I'll think about that and I'll come up with a proposal for next meeting.
Okay.
With your help, Holly.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? If not, we'll move into reports. The administration report. Guess you could talk about the wildly successful Saturday morning meeting we had.
We did have some people
We did have 6 people show up, and a lot of them are here tonight. Thank you.
Probably the biggest thing on the administration report is
The check.
the check issue that Elena can talk about more than I can, so.
Last month, I was starting the bank reconciliation for May for the combined expenditures account. For anybody who doesn't know, the way we do it is we have different funds for everything, general fund, police fund, water, and all of those pay into one main fund, and that's what we pay all of our expenditures out of, is our combined expenditure fund. So every other fund pays into that, what they owe for any expenditures, that's what pays into this. I was reconciling that last month for May and found several checks that did not match check numbers I had written. So I started looking into it, and 8 checks had cleared the bank that we did not write. They were copied, I believe they were physically copied from a check that was written to a legitimate vendor. Was sent to the vendor back in November, they cashed it in December, they wrote stuff at the bottom of it. Every duplicated check that was cashed had that same stuff written on the bottom. I mean, it was an absolute replica. So I went to the bank, I talked to Mike, we had to close out that account, we opened a new account, we did a fraud affidavit with the bank, we filed a police report with the police department, turned the claim over to Irma. The bank has since, it was $12,400 was how much was taken out of our account. The bank has since put the money back in there. So we are ultimately not out anything. New checks, new account number, they stopped everything on the old account and only allowed, basically I had to give a list of every legitimate expenditure we had that was still outstanding so that they could allow those to clear but would not allow anything else to clear. Had to order new checks, so at the next meeting I will have a list of checks that we will have to destroy. I'll have check numbers for you so that it can go into the official record of checks that were destroyed. But it did not take long once we found it for them to get it taken care of, shut it down. Ultimately, it was just the 8 checks. So that account has been closed. Those account numbers are no longer good. They can't do anything else with that check that they still have.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything else on the administration report? If not, then we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Any comments on the treasurer's report? Very well, then we'll move on to the department reports. PD, we have a report here from Chief McCall. Any comments for the chief? Was that other fire reported, the other house that burned down? Steve,
The one over on Birch?
was that the one on, oh, was that 110?
Yeah.
That's the one that we were talking about with the tall grass?
Yeah, actually, that's, Mr. Talley, I forgot to tell you about that one. On the PD report, item number 1, that house that I had asked you about, an emergency nuisance type thing. We don't have to worry about it now because somebody burnt it down.
Taken care of.
Taken care of.
Would have been easier to well, I think.
Well, they had moved out.
Yeah, it was vacant.
It was vacant. Anything else for PD? Very then, we'll go to Public Works. Anything for Jay? A lot of guys digging up our front yards, Jay.
And gas lines.
Be there tomorrow.
I got them marked.
We want to make sure that everybody knows that, just to say it again so that it's in the record, is that if people have a problem where, when Optics in town, they've been very responsive to us when we got those messages from people that called us. And people can either call us and tell us, and we get it right out to Optic, or they can talk to Optic directly themselves, either one of them. But they've been very responsive.
I think we need to get the word out to people. Like I said, they'll hook it, they'll take the line to your house. And there's no cost for that. You don't have to subscribe to their service.
Yeah.
And that's about $1,000 upgrade to your home. Because if you don't have that done, and then somebody wants to buy your house and they say, well, where's the fiber optic you guys got here? Well, we didn't have ours hooked up. It'll cost them about $1,000 to get that hooked up. So we need to probably get that out to people know. I had a guy in the street stop me today and ask about it. He said, I don't want that internet service. And he says, they sent me this letter and I'm not gonna sign up for it. I said, no, sign up for it. Doesn't cost you a thing. He thought they were gonna charge him $82 or something.
Can I ask just a related question to that? I know as Optics coming around and sometimes they make mistakes, and I saw Jay and his crew spending a whole day out in front of my yard repairing a water line. Do we bill them for that, or is that just the cost of doing business and bringing that in? And we know that we're going to be spending some time with our public works department to fix their mistakes. And
Depends on the situation. Whether it's their fault or my fault.
Okay.
We've got an outstanding bill up here on Rody Street where they chopped through our sewer main and we had to pay a crew to come in and dig down in the middle of the street and fix it. I'm just waiting to get the concrete bill when we fix the patch before I can finish the bill off. It'll probably be around $6,000 or $7,000. But Optic is holding their money. The crew quit and got out of town, quit doing it. But Optic holds like $25,000 until they're cleared, then they'll give that money up to them.
thanks.
Anything else for Jay?
One thing,
Yeah.
Jay, what about that old dead tree out there in Full Park?
Be 2 weeks. My tree cutter his boy was killed in an accident for Alderman in Alaska. And it happened the day before that I called him. And I told him not to worry about it for his family. And then whenever that's done, it'll be cut down.
No problem.
Anything else? All right. Now let the building inspector's report.
No roofing's up.
Great. Nothing else for building inspector. Then we'll move on to committee reports. Budget and finance. Donna.
We had a joint meeting yesterday, but I'll let Mike cover more of that under public facilities. One thing that did come up, that we do need to talk with, and Steve, I don't know if you and I need to get together first or whatever, we do need to see possibility of maybe a couple seasonal part-time employees for one of the departments, so we probably need to do some work on that before we schedule it, don't we?
Yeah, you and I need to get together on.
Okay, there was one other thing, and I can bring it up in new business or I can bring it up here. But, well, I'm not sure which, okay. When going over the expenditures, like we do every time, there's been some that come in for engineering, which does not raise any red flags because we have engineering. We've had stuff going to the park and the splash pad and everything else, so it's normal to have some. But I started to question a couple of things because we were showing quite a bit of engineering, and I thought unless it was bills coming in later, couldn't figure out exactly what we were engineering. So when I got the report, I got a hold of the city clerk, and got to looking over, and like in the month of May, which some of it was bills for the couple previous months, but so far out of this budget, we had like $18,000 we've had to pay engineers for sewer inspections. Now, I know like a big chunk of that was where they're doing Rainer Farms or whatever, so I understand a lot of that is like the new developments when they have to come out and do it. So if we have to have those sewer inspections done, and I know we don't have the manpower to do all of them, so we're contracting that out. But my question is, I don't know that our rate structure is covering those expenses. Are we eating a lot of that expense that maybe should be built somehow into plat approvals or building permits for these big developments? Because that's a lot of money if we're eating the charges. If there's some way we could review our rate structure. So I don't know if that's something that we need you to look at, Steve, and maybe see where we're at, or if it's something that we need the committee to look through all of ours to see. I don't want to make a profit off of people, but I don't want to lose money when they're coming in. I mean, it'd be a lot easier for them to tack an extra like $300 onto a sale price of a house and cover that cost.
If engineering for the year exceeds what we have put in the budget, that is unaccounted for and we eat it. So we've got engineering on the sewer side that's already built into the budget that we spend out of.
Right. But is this engineering we should have to do? Like if Schuber is coming in and building a big flat?
Specifically that construction inspection is the biggest portion of that. And we pay Algier Martin to do those inspections when people are putting in their sewer main. So that's a huge chunk of what that engineering is.
Yeah, and that's the part I'm talking about. What are we charging the builder?
We don't charge anything on that. That is just built into our budget, and we eat the whole works.
What?
Everybody does.
Everybody
It's built
does.
into the sewer rates.
Right,
Yeah.
so
And
why?
so it's built into the sewer rates.
Okay, my question is why? Why are our customers paying for those inspections in the sewer rates?
That's the way it's set up.
Why don't
I
the
can't answer.
builders?
That would be a good question for the engineers. I can't answer that. Why?
Well, but it goes back to what we're I mean, what I'm saying is if they come in and they do the plat, they put the plat for review, they get the building permits, all of this. Why don't we have our rate structure enough to cover those costs? So that rather than we or the customers pay extra, why doesn't the builder cover those costs? And that's our decision. That's not the engineers. I mean, should we up our rates? Should we up our fees?
If anything, I would think you'd want to up your fees and not the rates.
Yeah, I don't mean water rates. I mean the fees.
Yeah.
Like make the builders pay it. Don't make the customers pay it. Because I understand what you're saying. We have engineering
Right.
into the, I get that, but that's what I mean. It shouldn't come out of that.
You could actually do that. Now it'll be behind once we get that bill in from Algier Martin. And then we bill whatever the development company is that's doing it, whoever it is, we bill them for those fees.
Yeah. Or up their permit fee. Figure
Well,
out
you don't
how.
know what that's.
Well, but I'm saying we've
Because you
got,
don't know what it's gonna be.
no, but we've got historical data that we can look and see this plat for this many houses. I mean, we could probably get a good idea at least. Or
Maybe, I mean,
it would be better than nothing. We would, even if we got it close, it'd be better than zero. That's what I don't know how we're looking at our rate structure across the board. Our fee structure. Because are we charging enough when people are coming in and getting building permits?
oh, we don't, the building permits, yeah, we do. On the P and Z side of it, when we do,
Yeah, that's
a preliminary plan, oh no, we're
Yeah.
losing money Every time somebody
Right.
brings a plat in, we're losing money on engineering.
And I don't,
Because we don't charge that much for a recording fee, basically, $150, and then so much per lot or something like that.
It's for a final plat,
Yeah.
for stuff like that.
And I don't want to make a profit. I don't want it to be a revenue stream. But I don't want to lose money, because if we lose money, it's taxpayer money. Or like you say, if it comes out of the sewer engineering, then people's sewer rates have to, maybe if we had builders pay for that, some of that stuff, our sewer rates would go down. It's just something that raised a flag, and I thought, well, why are they not eating that cost?
We can absolutely bill the developers for those. I believe it's already built into our code that we can,
Well,
because we adjusted that code.
let me say that I know in Duquesne, because we dealt with Schubert Mitchell over in Duquesne in recent years, we require the developer to reimburse the city for its engineering expenses.
And if I remember right, we changed our code using the Duquesne one.
I think that's, I'm not sure it's in Carl Junson's code, but what you're talking about is what we do in Duquesne.
Yeah.
So,
It just makes more sense to me. They're making profit off of the construction.
we can
They
check
should
it
cover
after
the
meeting,
expenses.
and see if we've got some similar provision. But we call them reimbursable expenses that are billed to the developer. And it's the city's expenses in getting the engineering it needs to
Yeah.
complete the project.
And that sounds exactly like what I'm thinking. Whether we have something in a fee up front, or we've got it in writing that they know they're going to reimburse them. But what would it take for us to?
I think it's already in the code that we bill for that. So that's what Mr. Talley and I have to check out. and see.
Yeah, we'll check it out. I'm not sure it's in our code. It may be, I think maybe that's where Duquesne got it, was out of the Carl Junction code, but I'm not sure about that. I do know that we have it in Duquesne, and it'll just take a little time to see if we've got it here. Steve and I will work on that.
All right, thank you, because that, like I say, it's not budget committee, but it was something I was gonna bring up but yesterday the members had to be absent, so unless anybody disagrees with passing
Jay
that.
has his hand up. Mike asked.
Jay,
I think if we're playing Augur Martin by an hourly wage for that inspector to go out there, we ought to pass it right on to Schubert Mitchell.
yeah, I just feel like we should fit the bill.
Or whatever developer it is. Not-
Right,
not-
yeah, and
not
I just use that as an
Schubert.
example, whoever it is, not to pick on any developer. But other than, that's all I have, sir, until we talk.
Anything else for budget? Code and nuisance, Rick isn't here. Anybody else want to talk about code and nuisance? I guess that's Roger or Phil or Bill McGuire. Probably not. Human resources, Roger.
Nothing.
Public facilities, Mike.
As Donna mentioned, we had a meeting yesterday, a joint meeting between public facilities and the budget and finance committee. Just try to get some updates on some of the ongoing projects that you guys are familiar with. The pavilions at Lakeside and the playground equipment at Center Creek Park and shade structures at the splash pad, trails and lots of, we have a list of 20, 25 different things that are maybe in the process or we hope to be able to accomplish soon. So we just kind of got an update on that. And I hope it won't be at the next meeting because that's just a week from now, right? But the first week in August, have a few designs for some things that I'd like to bring in front of the whole council and get your opinions on some things.
Good.
And so hopefully the first week in August, we'll have some things for you guys to look at.
Great. Anything else for public facilities? Yeah, Ollie.
I received an email from a resident that lives near the splash pad. I don't know if anybody else got this, requesting noise limiting landscaping around the splash pad. She said it's quite loud all day with children screaming and
The sound of joy.
That goes with it.
so I have that email I can pass on if anybody would like to read that.
If you would send that to me, please.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Public facilities? We'll move on with unfinished business then. David. I have nothing, Roger.
No.
Holly,
No, sir.
Mr. Tally?
Nothing.
Elena?
Yes, sir. I put something on the dais for you all, the June 6 minutes that were approved at the last meeting. After the approval, we noticed that there was a part of a sentence that was incorrect. The way it currently reads, I know, but it's an important sentence. Bill McGuire asked if the meetings in July would be back to back, since the July 4th meeting was pushed back a week, and Mayor Powers said no. What actually occurred was he asked if Bill McGuire asked if the second meeting in July would be pushed back, since the July 4th meeting was pushed back a week, and Mayor Powers said no. So I would like your approval to amend the June 6th minutes to correctly reflect that the next meeting will be next week. And I would like to use that exact language that I provided.
I move that we give approval for you to amend the previously approved minutes to that exact language.
Second.
Motion by Don Allen, second by Roger Spencer to approve the June 6, 2023 minutes amendment presented by Elena. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative, 2 absent.
And Mayor,
Yes,
I
sir.
apologize. I told Elena to do it that way.
I know that's fine.
Okay, but
There's
that's
no
the way I
problem with
think it should be.
Very well then. Let's see, where were we? Any other unfinished
That's all.
business? Crystal? Steve?
No, sir.
Mark? Jay? New business, Holly?
No, sir.
Roger?
Yes, sir. I've been approached by some young gentlemen in my ward out there. They would like to see it have a basketball goal put in the park down there. The way it's set up now, they got one gentleman that has a basketball goal in his yard, but he's very seldom home, and they don't feel like it's right for them to go into his yard to play basketball. And I told them I would bring it up and see what how everybody wanted to do about it. I talked to Steve about it.
I added it to the list of the projects on the Public Facilities Committee.
So I'll mention, we did talk about that, and I think the consensus was that it was something that was a reasonable price project that we can make quite a bit of an impact, but we would like to knock a few of the other projects off our list that we're currently working on. And so we put that on the list, and it's something that we would definitely want to do after we get a couple other things finished up. And that was something I think we all thought that was worth it.
Thank you.
But shouldn't be that far.
No, it's not years from now. No,
Yeah.
it's,
What did we figure that would cost, Steve? You remember?
It was about 6 grand.
About how much?
About 6 grand.
Anything else?
That's it.
I have no new business. Don?
Nothing.
Mike?
I have nothing, sir.
Bill? Dave? Mr. Tally?
No.
Lena?
But the guy's basketball goal, but he's
No,
not
other
using it.
than I was
We have
at
that
Second
one.
Tuesday tonight,
Save some money.
and there was a resident that lives over by the splash pad that wanted to say, it's kind of funny because it's the exact opposite of the email. He loves hearing the screaming children. That's how joyful they are. And he said he even likes to listen to the water run when there's not anybody on there in the evening time and it hasn't shut off yet. He says it's like a nice little waterfall. And he said it's really nice. And he also wanted to compliment the city on the sidewalks and all of the improvements that we've been doing around town. He said, wanted to give kudos to everybody. He said we did a good job. And since we don't hear that very often, I thought I'd report that back.
Very true.
Very good.
Thank you, Crystal. Anything else? Steve?
No, sir.
Mark? Jay?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business before the council?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Don Allen, second by Roger Spencer, that we adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative with 2 absent. We are adjourned. Thank you all for attending and putting up with me and my lack of a voice. Yeah, thanks.
I think you sounded good.
You sound like
I probably shouldn't It's like, their statistics. It's like, we've got 300 million dogs.